All right, Luke, we're on a bench.
We're on a bench, we're back in your life.
We're back in your life and you're back in our life, and we are back in the snow and the snow is back in our life. And here we are looking at a park, looking at a dog with a red jacket and 3 people walking our way. They must be fans. Clearly they couldn't stay away from us. They had to come and see their very favourite show in person. So, you're right.
I'm fantastic. I was just absorbing that beautiful energy that the Massey, the great, gorgeous George always exhibits with his exuberant energy. It's just a beautiful thing to be a part of. I don't know if you guys are receiving that on that frequency that I'm receiving, but it's so easy to fall into negative mindsets and pessimism. And it's great to just connect with a brother, with a wonderful friend, with someone I consider, you know, to be, quite frankly, a god, you know, in human skin.
As long as you consider me a god, life is complete. Nothing else is necessary. This is it, it's done. We've reached the pinnacle, plateaued. As long as Luke thinks you're even like cool, then you're all right. Like you could literally die, go to heaven, and God says, what did you do on earth? What did you achieve? And you go, well, Luke thought I was a pretty cool guy. You go, all right, come in.
That's
mission accomplished.
And I think, you know, this is it. This is literally it. If you can just meet up with a friend, you're already winning. If you can do that, I strongly suggest you do that. I think your mental health is the most important thing.
And we should talk about that. That wasn't actually my priority topic.
Listen,
I did
flow.
We don't bow to the rules of things like gravity.
Rules?
We tell gravity what we're going to do. If we're going to fly, we're going to fly. If we want to go to the heavens, we're going to go to the heavens. If we want the heavens to come to us, by gum, it comes to us. All of them, every single part of the ethereal plane comes our way, and we embrace it and we give it a hug and we warm it up on a day like today. Anyway,
By the fire.
but I was thinking about that actually. There were 2 topics I wanted to talk about. They're sort of integrated in a way. One of them is about what you just said. Don't get too down, don't get bogged down, don't get stuck in the pit and the swamp of sorrow and loneliness and misery. We don't want any of that. But before I get into that, I was on the train over here this morning, right? And I was reading an essay, of all things, by the great, you know him, Aldous Huxley. No, you probably don't know him actually. I bet no one who's watching this video.
Is it?
That's the guy. You know him. Now, I'm a big fan of Aldous Huxley's essays, which most people ain't never read. And I read an essay this morning on the train called Acciday. I don't know if I'm saying it right. It sounds like accident, but Acciday. And what it is he talks about how very long time ago, you know, a few 100,000, not 100,000 years, but about 1,000 years or so, people very much believed in demons. They believed in spirits, right? They believed that there were things that got into us and made us feel very, very bad, very glum, very miserable. And I just wanted to read one tiny bit of this because he talks about how men of the desert called him Demon Meridianus, right? And what they say is he would visit people.
Powerful words.
Yeah, but they really believed it, and they said he would visit.
Say that again. Say that, Demon
Meridianus.
Wow.
Right, and it said that the poor victim would feel desolatingly empty. He would look to the door of his cell. It felt like a cell. It was actually just his home. But he would look to the door of his cell and look up at the sun and ask himself why this had arrested him. And he would go into the shade and wonder what good he was doing, if there was any object in existence worth living for, right? Anyway, it goes on and on and on. He talks about this real sorrow and sadness and grief that people would feel. And then eventually, you know, we started going, hang on, it's not actually a demon, da-da-da-da-da. But here's what really got me, right? What really got me is I was thinking, I get the point, Aldous. I love his essays, I get the point, okay? Yeah. The point's been made, Aldous. All right?
We get it, Aldous, all right?
Exactly.
Pipe down.
But then, evidently I didn't. He was one step ahead of me the whole time, because this is the final line of his essay, and it really struck a chord with me. It said, but with us, meaning his generation, about 1928, I think he wrote this. He said, with us, it is not a sin or a disease, it is a state of mind which fate has forced upon us. What he's saying is, we acknowledge boredom, things like that, is not a demon. It is a state of mind which fate has forced upon us. Meaning, and this is so, I think, more relevant now than ever, especially with lockdown and stuff, but we don't perceive boredom, sadness, despair, loneliness, emptiness as a demonic force. we take it as life. A lot of people are like, that's how life is. And his overall point was, back then, they literally were so against those feelings that they saw it as a demon. They literally thought a demon has invaded me and made me feel bad. And now we accept it like, yeah, that's life. Oh, you hate your job? That's life, get used to it. Oh, you hate being in school? That's life, get used to it. Now, I'm not saying that, 1,000 years ago, everyone was happy all the time, but because obviously they weren't. Life, has its difficulties. He talks about that too. But it's a very valid point that if in the world people actually thought, fucking hell, it's an evil spirit to make me feel that way. And the point is you're not supposed to live your whole life feeling like that. You're not supposed to get used to it. And what I wanted to talk about on this topic, right, was in regards to the sadness and the negativity and the suicides that have been happening during lockdown, right? I'm going to bridge this in another way, okay? I used to have a dance teacher, okay, once upon a time when I was in dance and she said to me that one of the hardest things about training a young dancer is to teach them the difference between good pain and bad pain, okay? Like when you exercise, sure, there's a point where it's like no pain, no gain. But she's like, at the same time, there is a kind of pain that is bad and potentially damaging. So like, let's say you're trying to do the splits or stretching, whatever. How do you teach a child to know within themselves when the pain is good for them versus when it's bad for them? And I have started to acknowledge there are certain things where we say you go to school and you don't like it, but your parents say, no, it's good for you. And your teachers say, no, it's good for you. And you write an essay you don't want to write and they say, no, it's good for you. And you do an exam where you have to revise for, no, it's good for you. You can get very quickly adjusted to thinking when you feel bad, it's good for you. But it isn't. There are so many circumstances when it's not. Now I could go on and on, but I want some of Luke's verbal spiel.
He definitely could go on and
I
on.
want to hear the spiritual deity sitting next to me. I want to know where it resonates in the very fibres of his being. I want to know.
Guys,
comes out.
Ladies, and everything in between.
Did I stoke the coals of your thoughts with that?
You've stoked my spirit with those words.
Is it good stoking?
It's always good stroking and stoking with you, George. You know that. That's for another video, though.
Good stroking. That's the stuff that happens off camera.
So I'd like to take us back a step. Aldous Huxley, what an absolute legend. Just big up Aldous Huxley, wherever you are in the spiritual realm, listening to us converse on this beautiful snow white day. And I'd like to say that our ancestors, it's easy to forget about the kind of sacred knowledge and wisdom that they understood. And I think now we're living in a time where depression, where anxiety and mental health issues has become such a prominent issue. We're starting to realize that our ancestors, that our tribal roots, there was a lot of wisdom within those communities, within that culture. And we're starting to understand that it wasn't all just, spiritual mumbo jumbo and superstition. Obviously, there's a part of that, but there's also, you have to understand there was a balance between the physical, the mental, and the spiritual world back then, at least within tribal communities where they understood the ephemeral nature of life and the connection that we have to our environment, to our surroundings, to each other. Not seeing oneself as just an individual self, but actually seeing oneself as part of a greater whole. Ephemeral meaning temporary, right? Exactly, George.
Beautiful word,
George,
to describe something that isn't always that beautiful. To think life is temporary. Something like that. Is it beautiful? But when you say it's ephemeral, suddenly it seems beautiful.
It's a beautiful word, isn't it? I think this is a huge issue of our time, right? The fact that we are so steeped in fear based on our circumstance, based on seeing things as forever, as constant, right? And then not seeing the bigger picture, not seeing things more truthfully for what they are, which is constantly in motion, constantly in flow. So for example, this morning, I woke up this morning, I looked outside, I was like, wow, my God, it's bloody freezing outside. I don't want to go out filming. What kind of moron films outside?
This is completely true. He wrote to me and said, I don't want to go, it's too cold. Why don't you just come and like be on my doorstep so I don't have to go out, so I can have a heater behind me, right, and a cup of hot chocolate, and I can sit there with a woolly Christmas hat on, and I don't need to go outside, and I can be in my slippers. And now look, aren't you glad that you're freezing?
This is it, right? And it goes back to what George said about sometimes the things that you don't want to do because you think are potentially bad for you, actually those are the things often that you need to do.
Those are the things that kill the demons.
Step outside your front door, challenge yourself, get on a bike, wear an amazing hat, be cool, do your thing. Don't just trap yourself within yourself, because the longer you do that, the harder it is to get out, the harder it is to move and to fucking explore and enjoy and connect with friends, with family, with nature, with your environment, with your surroundings. Get outside, guys, connect with people. Don't get lost in the humdrum and the nonsense and the bullshit of the news and the shit that you see online telling you you're this and you're that and you should stay in your lane and you're stuck in this box. You're not in a box. Break out of the box, George. Break out of the box.
I'm doing it. I'm gonna break out of the box. Where's the box? Where is it? Where are the edges?
We don't live in a box.
I left that box behind a long time ago. The box came for me and I said, come on in. And then music from Street Fighter 2 started playing in the background and it went din 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 din, and I went Hadouken, and then the box exploded and here we are. Now, that's the box I like to live in, Capcom. By the way, it was the 30th anniversary of Street Fighter yesterday.
Was it? Oh my
Happy
God,
birthday,
how did I miss that? Happy
Street
birthday,
Fighter 2.
Street Fighter 2.
Happy birthday, Ryu.
The greatest beat 'em up ever made,
Happy birthday,
surely.
Ken. Do you know, let's, on this note, right, I wanted to say,
We've got to talk Street Fighter.
there's a lot I could say about what you just said. And before we talk Street Fighter, before we talk it,
The serious issues of Street Fighter can hold for a minute whilst we talk about mental health, okay? That's fine.
Because one thing that is so abundantly relevant, and you see it all the time, is I read a beautiful quote that's relevant to this. It really, it almost shook me up. I thought it was so beautiful. And it's more powerful if you read it than if I say it, right? But because it just, sometimes things get into your brain when you read them versus when you hear them.
Words are magic.
What it said is, it said, as a child, you don't realise that you're also watching your parents growing up. Isn't that good?
That's, wow.
It's amazing, isn't it? I love that.
That was a little bit of a slap, like a beautiful slap, like
Yeah.
a strong slap, but a nice slap.
As a child, you don't realise that you're also watching your parents growing up.
Wow.
One reason I think it's so relevant is because
Tip my hat to that quote.
I don't know who said it, but it was written on a, you know, like when you walk past a pub and they write something. It wasn't a pub, but it was like that. It was like somebody had written it on a whiteboard somewhere. But anyway.
That's where I get my best quotes.
From a bar mat, right? I'll go on the toilet wall, I'm a little bit drunk, and somebody's written something, scribble it with a pen. Call Susanna at 3 a.m. for a good time.
I did.
Was she nice, Susanna?
It was okay.
But the reason I say it is because children, right, we know as, you know, ephemeral adults, ephemeral meaning we fluctuate, we go back and forth to our childhood ways all the time. But we know that kids don't know what's best for them. We just know it. Like, and that's why sometimes, like, the kid wants to stay at home and play on the iPad. And you say to the kid, come out, we're going to go to the playground, and they don't want to go. But they don't know how much fun it's actually going to be for them. They don't realise how much they're going to enjoy it. You could literally say to a kid, right, let's say the child has never seen a theme park before, okay? They're sitting at home on the phone, you go, come on, we're going to take you to a theme park. They don't know what that is, right? They haven't seen a picture, whatever. They don't know that they're actually going to really like it. And so it's up to a parent to not ask, but take. And I've worked with many, many kids, and I've seen many, many parents who treat their children like they're friends instead of their own children. And they will say things like, would you like to go to the playground? Would you like to go to the playground today? And the child obviously goes, no, because they're playing video games, right? Now, I love video games.
I can vouch for that.
But I know firsthand that sometimes a kid, when you go, come on then, let's go. And they go, no. And you go, come on, you're going to enjoy it. And they get there, and sure enough, they do. And they have a great time, and they run around, and they use up their energy, and they meet friends, and they play in the sandpits, and they have a great time. But it's up to you to say, I know what's best for you, right? You don't have to say it in those words, but you go, I know what's best for you, so you take them out. And the thing is as adults, you sometimes don't have somebody to do that for you. Sometimes you're like, oh, I feel fucking terrible. And you have to basically parent yourself and be like, I know I fucking feel terrible, And you have to kick yourself up the arse and go, no, I'm going to go out there and stop feeling that way. And I just loved the fact that Huxley sort of punched you in the face verbally at the end by emphasising that originally, if you felt that way, they said it was a demon. And now we just take it as that's how I feel. If you're the kind of person who feels that way, and everyone does sometimes, you can get stuck thinking, I'm supposed to feel bad. But you should think, it's a fucking demon. If I feel bad, it's a fucking demon. I don't want to spend my whole life feeling like this. Fucking hell.
You need to slay that demon.
You need to slay that demon.
You need to slay that demon.
It's a more there's nuances, right? I'm not saying life has to be, you always have to be up here. No, obviously not, right? And boredom and things like that, it's a whole other topic. Sure. I was thinking of doing a whole video about boredom. Because boredom is actually a survival instinct to actually learn new things and create, yeah. So sometimes it's good to feel bad because it's a way to actually
get those creative juices flowing in that space of inertia.
And on this topic, I'm going to weave us back. I'm going to find a pathway, a river almost, back to Street Fighter 2.
Back to Street Fighter 2, guys.
Back to Street Fighter 2.
Enough of this other nonsense. We need to talk about the most vital aspect of this video. And that's the fact that Street Fighter 2 just had its 30th anniversary.
Yeah, but there's a connection here. There's a connection here. And the reason
30th. I am old, aren't I? Bloody hell.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So Street Fighter 2, I wanted to just mention one thing about it, okay?
Just one? I don't believe you, George.
One of the reasons it's famous is actually its characters. And what's interesting is back then, if you don't know it, it's a beat 'em up. It's a video game. It's the most famous coin-op arcade game.
And if you don't know it, where have you been?
What planet have you been on? It was a global game. It was the only geographical map I knew growing up.
It was like the global pandemic, but in video game form and way more entertaining and fun. The only side effects would be sore fingers from jamming those control pads with absolute fury.
And
welcome.
Join the fun.
Thank you, you too.
The thing I wanted to mention is this, right? Ryu, or Ryu, however you want to say him, we called him Ryu as a kid, is the main character of the game, really. He's the kind of face of the game, Ryu and Ken, but Ryu. Now, if you beat the game with Ryu, every single character has a different ending when you finish the game. Ryu's ending stuck with me from childhood, because what happens is the game ends and there's a ceremony and they're waiting for Ryu to come and take his trophy. He's supposed to get a medal, he's supposed to get his trophy.
Yes,
okay?
yes, it's coming back to me, guys.
And underneath the screen, it says, "Where is Ryu?" the people chant. "Where is our victor?" or something like that. And then it fades, and it appears this very sort of like, rudimentary sort of graphic style. And Ryu is walking into the distance, walking along a path, walking into the sunset, and it says he has no interest in medals. He has no, I'm just messing the quote up a bit here, but he has no interest in medals, no interest in trophies. That is not why he does it. It is the challenge, it is the fight that he cares about. And then at the end, he's out there, jumping about in a waterfall.
Does it also not just say...
He's a bit like you, to be honest.
Oh.
Honestly, it's that kind of mindset. But I think it's a very powerful thing. And it's something that, even though it's like just a video game, whatever, I know how that feels. I know how it feels where you actually, say, win something, and people think, like, they look at the Oscars and stuff, and it's the feeling of like, oh, look at that, the ceremony, the celebrities, everyone applauding. But in reality, if you're actually someone who tries to do anything, the joy is not having someone patting you on the back. The joy is actually doing it. And you have to consider the people who created that game changed the world with that game. They changed video games with that, and they were the kinds of people who had that mindset. We enjoy the process, we enjoy the creativity, we want to keep doing this. These are the same people who made, like Mega Man and Capcom were like
legends of the video game world.
So for them it was like, it's not about trophies, it's not about medals, it's about doing something that we love, that we believe in. And if that means waking up at 5 a.m. and throwing punches at waterfalls to get stronger, then that's
what I do.
That is what you do. I know, yeah.
I literally wake up at 4:30, and by 5 I'm in the waterfall, throwing dragon punches, Hadoukens, and spinning back kicks.
But he actually does. Luke is actually like self-made muscle man, doing it like Rocky, is it Rocky 4 where he doesn't go to the gym?
Rocky 4 is the soundtrack to my workouts.
But whatever, but he uses nature. Luke uses trees. Luke uses whatever is around him in a forest or a wood to do his workouts. And is it just so that somebody can look at you and go, oh, look, you're strong? Or is it the process?
It's everything, you know. It's an incredible... I love the fact you brought that up because, not to stroke my ego, not for that
I'll
reason.
stroke your ego. I'll stroke it long and hard and firm, I will. I'll stroke it from morning until night.
But it's just, I think, movement and just doing whatever you want to do, but training for me, you know, connecting with nature, embracing the elements, you know. There's something deeper than purely physical action when you're doing that. When you're embracing your environment, when you're embracing nature, it's a spiritual path that you're then developing. You're also finding a connection to something greater than yourself. And I think for me, I'll be completely honest with you, I suffered a lot with depression, with anxiety, with stress, especially when I was younger. And for me, moments of being in nature were incredibly therapeutic, and exercise, moving, getting the body going. So Bruce Lee, for example, was a huge hero of mine as a kid. He was almost like a surrogate father in some ways, and he inspired me to move the body, to exercise, to explore. And I understood that with nature and with movement, if I bring those two together, if I connect the dots, then I've got a beautiful recipe to help balance my mind, my body and my spirit, and feel healthy. And it's I feel blessed that, you know, I'm able to go outside and explore and expand and move.
He's
and,
also
you know,
someone who broke rules, because in terms of all the stuff that we're talking about, you know, don't get completely trapped. Bruce Lee is somebody who said, again, my quotes are all over the place, but he said, show me essentially a martial artist who follows their rules and I will show you a dead man. Because Bruce Lee said any single person who goes, oh, I do jiu-jitsu, I do taekwondo, I do karate, Wing Chun, right? He's like, if they only stay within that box, I will show you a dead man. Because what he did is he went to every single different one and he took out what worked. And he's like, this works from yours, this works from yours, this works from yours. I take bits from everything, I put it together, and then I end up becoming the master of all of you, or all of this. And it's an important lesson, because like in anything, it's easy to go, this is my group, this is what I know. And he's like, no, you have to sort of become like the water. You go between it. You go, this works, this works, this works. And it's even though I was talking about being trapped in lockdown, being trapped in your own head, he's somebody who was like, he wouldn't be trapped by anything. He's like, you know, I'm not even going to be trapped to a singular martial art. I'm not getting confined to that.
It's incredible, you know, Bruce Lee, you know, he passed away, I believe he was 32 years old when he passed away. Yeah, what a life.
Passed away, that's Luke adopting a bit of Liverpudley in there.
What a life he had, what an incredible knowledge and wisdom. I mean, if you look at the quotes that Bruce Lee had, the knowledge that he absorbed, you know, and it's incredible if you can find someone, it doesn't matter, it could be Bruce Lee, it could be anyone, but someone that you respect, that you appreciate. It doesn't matter what they're doing, but just their method, their way of being, their way of living. If you can get some kind of understanding of how they do things, which can inspire you to then live out your inspirations, your dreams, your desires, what you want to do with your life. Look, for example, Bruce Lee, he had heroes too, you know. We look at Bruce Lee, but Bruce Lee was incredibly influenced by philosophers like Alan Watts and Krishnamurti and others. And there must be others that we're not even aware of. And so you can find your own way, but also, you know, be open to learning and being inspired by other people. And then, as Bruce Lee said, you take and you receive from other sources, and then you create something that is uniquely your own, you know, and you be your authentic self. Bruce Lee always spoke about that. And I think that's so important, to be your authentic self, to not be afraid to be who you are. It's so easy, especially with all that goes on in the world, with the media, with society, to always try and be, you know, the cool guy or the popular guy or whatever, or try and fit in with the mold and be like everybody else, because everybody wants to fit in, right? But in fact, you'll be better off standing out by simply being yourself, by simply stepping into who you are. I mean, look at George, he's a phenomenal example of that. He is who he is, unashamedly, right? And that's why he's so bloody cool and so awesome, because he doesn't try to fit into a box. Get out of the box, guys.
If being yourself means wear a giant wig and have a McDonald's in this hand and a Burger King in that hand and a pair of clown shoes, walking down the street with dribble running down your chin and crying, hallelujah, then do it. Because why not? Like, if that is what being yourself means, then, you know, for at least 5 or 10 minutes, it'll be very entertaining for you. At least you won't be trapped inside, will you? No, you'll
George,
be.
is there something you haven't told me? What have you been doing?
No, I mean, I do think, because once in a while, I think the advice of take in many different things and sort of discover yourself along the way. I have two stances on it, because sometimes I think some people, you can't always say just be yourself, right? I get where he's coming from. I'm trying to extract it and trying to simplify it. I'm trying to E equals MC squared it, meaning minimize it to like a formula. But I do believe in, I'm just name dropping today. I'm name dropping all these people who no one cares about except me. But George Bernard Shaw said a couple of my favorite quotes, and one of them is, he said, life is not about finding yourself, but creating yourself. And I love that quote. You're welcome to disagree with it. Once in a while, it's the best thing I've ever heard, and sometimes I think
I
you
like
can
that.
kind of find yourself too. But I do think it's important to say, okay, create yourself. If you just go looking for yourself, you might not find it. But if you go, what do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? How do I do it? And then you do the Bruce Lee thing and you go to the teachers and go, okay, I want to be a better speaker. Well, who do I know who's a good speaker? I will learn from them. I want to be better with people. Who do I know who's socially very good? Okay, I will learn from them. I want to be a better writer. Okay, whose writing do I like? Okay, I'll learn from them. I want to learn to do martial arts. Okay, who should I learn from? And then you have direction, then you have a path, then there's somewhere you're actually going and it's useful and you're putting one foot in front of the other. And so in that regard, I get it. But you will find anchor, if you create yourself, you'll find yourself, put it that way.
We'll return after these messages.
I've been hearing these sounds coming from the basement.
They say it's the scariest book of all time. The only book that's alive. You've heard of books you can't put down. Well, this book will put you down.
All right, so then, I think we should come to a sort of conclusion. We've talked about all kinds of things. We've meandered, and yet we've somehow made succinct points. We've talked about George Bernard Shaw, we've talked about Aldous Huxley, we've talked about demons, we've talked about the demons that are inside your own soul that you didn't even know are demons, and you thought that it was actually life and normality and how you're supposed to feel when you're not. You're actually supposed to think that's a bad feeling and I've got to get through it, I've got to fight through it. Boredom is merely the step towards actual progress and therefore happiness. Now, I think who's better to summarize this show and say something profound and beautiful and wonderful than Luke? So you take it away.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your life to join and to share it with us. And I think it's incredible that we have this space in which to express ourselves, in which to be honest, be real, be genuine, and be authentic. And if you take anything away from this video, I would suggest you just be as authentic as possible. Just be who you are, grow, learn, understand, and step into the slight uncomfortability of life. Step into that space. Don't allow inertia, don't allow boredom, don't allow all the shit to take over. Just let it go, release it by doing what you need to do, by expressing yourself, by exploring who you are.
But don't hurt
doing
people.
your thing, but never hurt anybody.
Don't do it. Don't be yourself and hurt people.
Don't hurt people, guys. That's a given.
And don't take no shit from nobody.
Don't take shit, but don't hurt either.
Don't be taken advantage of,
Find
like
time-
he's taking advantage of me
Find
right now.
time to make connections with friends, with family. Find time to connect with other people. We're tribal beings. We're not supposed to be alone all the time. Even if you can't get out of the house, make a call, talk to someone, make a video call, express, expand. Don't be lost in the doldrums.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Love
Bye.
you.